Hoorah!
Let's have a do-over. Hoorah! Hoorah! Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, honored guests, good evening. I'd like to thank you for joining us for the 238th celebration of the birthday of our beloved Marine Corps. First thing I would like to do is thank everyone for participating in the Toys for Tots program. I assure you that we will ensure that those toys get delivered appropriately to the Marine Corps Reserve. It's one of their missions. If you would direct your attention to the back of the room, I would like to introduce our principal guest speaker, Patrick Brent, our senior officer of the mess, Major General Mastin Robeson, and our president of the mess, Major Ralph Bates.
Father, our God, we thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed on us, and that you watch over us as we gather in this place to honor our Corps Marines on our 238th birthday, upholding our traditions and spirit of honor to our Corps and country. We are grateful to the veterans of our sister services and our civilian friends joining us this evening. Bless this food we're about to eat and for the fellowship to follow. And we ask all in Christ's name, amen. Amen. Attention, attention, attention to orders.
Sound, attention.
Archer Lejeune that formed the first Marine Corps birthday celebration. We have presenting the original article from the Commandant, Mike Reardon, Captain Mike Reardon. Captain.
Marine Corps Order number 47, Headquarters, U.S. Marine Corps, Washington, November 1st, 1921. The following will be read on the command on the 10th of November, 1921, and hereafter on the 10th of November every year. Should the order not be received by the 10th of November, 1921, it will be read upon receipt. On November 10th, 1775, a Corps of Marines was created by resolution of the Continental Congress. Since that date, many thousands men have borne the name Marine. In memory of them, it is fitting that we who are Marines should commemorate the birthday of our Corps by calling to mind the glories of its long and illustrious history. The record of our Corps is one which will bear comparison with that of the most famous military organization in world history. During 90 of the 146 years of its existence, the Marine Corps has been in action against the nation's foes. From the Battle of Trenton to the Argonne, Marines have won foremost honors in war and in long eras of tranquility at home. Generation after generation of Marines have grown gray in war in both hemispheres and in every corner of the 7 seas, that our country and its citizens might enjoy peace and security. In every battle and skirmish since the birth of our Corps, Marines have acquitted themselves with the greatest distinction, winning new honors on each occasion until the term Marine has come to signify all that is highest in military efficiency and soldierly virtue. The high name of distinction and soldierly repute we whom are Marines today have received from those who preceded us in the Corps. With it, we have also received from them the eternal spirit which has animated our Corps from generation to generation and has been the distinguishing mark of the Marines in every age. So long as that spirit continues to flourish, Marines will be found equal to every emergency in the future as they have been in the past, and the men of our nation will regard us as worthy successors to the long line of illustrious men who have served as soldiers of the sea since the founding of our Corps. John A. Lejeune, Major General, Commandant.
Thank you, sir. We jump from 1921 to our present day. Captain John Warren will read the message of our present Commandant.
A message from the Commandant, United States Marine Corps. For 238 years, the United States Marine Corps has proudly served our great nation with unfailing valor, bolstered by the enduring fortitude of our fellow Marines, our families, and our friends. This is why each year on November 10th, Marines from all generations gather together in groups large and small to celebrate the birthday of our Corps and to reflect the proud legacy and warrior ethos we share. This is what unites Marines. From our first battle at New Providence to today in Afghanistan, Marines have always shown that they were made of tougher stuff, that when the enemy's fire poured in from all angles and the situation was grim, Marines unequivocally knew that their fellow Marines would stay behind their guns, fight courageously, and drive the enemy from the battlefield. We have always known hardship, fatigue, and pain, but we have never known what it is to lose a battle. Marines of generations past built our reputation as the most disciplined and honorable warriors to ever set foot on the battlefield, and we have triumphed in every battle because our Corps has always focused on iron discipline and combat excellence. This is who we are. This is what we do. It matters not whether you carried an M1, an M14, or an M16. It matters not whether you fought on a lonely island in the Pacific, assaulted a citadel in the jungle, or marched up to Baghdad. It matters not whether you were a grunt, or a pilot, or a loggy. What matters is that when the chips were down and things got tough, your fellow Marines could count on you to stand and fight you did. This year, we celebrate the anniversary of several epic battles in our celebrated history. The 70th anniversary of the 2nd Marine Division landing on Tarawa, the 45th anniversary of the Battle of Way City, and the 10th anniversary of the march up to Baghdad. Marines who have fought in these legendary battles each made their mark upon the history of our Corps. They have passed a rich and illustrious legacy on to us, a much heralded reputation. It is ours to jealously guard, and it is up to us to make our own marks and thus proudly pass it on to the generations of Marines who will follow. Sergeant Major Michael Barrett joins me in congratulating each of you. Because of you, your selfless service, and your many sacrifices, our Corps remains strong and ready to respond to any crisis. Throughout history, Marines have focused on tough times, and there will be more tough times ahead. But there is no challenge we cannot overcome if we remain honorable and always faithful to our nation, our Constitution, and each other. Happy birthday, Marines. Semper Fidelis, James F. Amos, General, United States Marine Corps, Commandant, Marine Corps.
Thank you, sir. Marines, ladies and gentlemen, it was not always, it's not always safe to consume food back in the day. We Marines take a lot of our traditions from the British, especially the British Marines. And the British Marines have been around a little longer than us, and without refrigeration, sometimes these events could cause some, shall we say, difficulty with eating and consuming the food. Therefore, they began a tradition where the president of the mess always tested the meat and the fish before it was served to the mess, for obvious reasons. They also used to go through presidents quite frequently in those days. Yes, sir. So I'm going to follow the tradition of the British with a chef. Bring forth the beef and the fish. You'll notice I'm still standing. Therefore, I proclaim this food that I have tasted as honorable and fit for human consumption. All right, you'll enjoy your meal. Now, before we dine, and we're prepared to dine this time and relax a bit before we conclude our ceremonial functions to celebrate the Marine Corps birthday, but I would be remiss if I did not, at this particular point in time, I'm not going to introduce our guest or our commander or what have you, but I am going to introduce the people who have made this event tonight possible. I cannot do it myself. Matter of fact, I know I can't do it myself. I have such people as would you please stand when I call your name? Roy Seaver. Jim Ray, who is not with us. Bill Wepner. Kevin McBride. Marty Lazar. And John Thompson. Thank you, gentlemen. This is your committee that has put together this Marine Corps birthday function. Now, I'd like to single out two very important people, John Thompson and Sandy Thompson. Would you please rise? John and Sandy? John and Sandy have taken the lion's task of putting together such things as the invitations, the returns, the meals, the seating arrangements, the whole 9 yards. Please give them a round of applause. Next, we have a very fine cake that we're going to consume this evening, and that cake is with us because of the dedication of Colonel Mindy Williams. Colonel, you brought the cake. And today, while the rest of us were getting ready for the Marine Corps birthday, there were people in here setting up, cutting flowers, putting vases on, decorating, putting flags out, the whole 9 yards, with the following people who set this room up today, along with the staff of the Poinsett Club: Phyllis Phillips, Jeannie Benton, Lynn Bates, and Sandy Thompson. Please rise. Marines, ladies and gentlemen, please, now it is my pleasure to announce that you enjoy your food, relax, mingle, talk, and shortly, Mr. Vice and I will snap you back to attention and we'll get on to the business. But right now, it's time to relax and enjoy ourselves. Do so.
Well, I still do.
This evening, as we gather to continue the Marine Corps birthday celebration, before we get into the business of introducing the guest of honor this evening, I would like to call to your attention that we have among us this evening 2 wounded warriors, Marines, from the war zone that we're currently fighting against the terrorists of this nation. Jeremy Grateller and his wife Jenna, please rise. And Michael Baton and his wife Sarah, please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, the members of this mess appreciate your service very much, your dedication very much, and in the Marine Corps tradition. All right.
It is my pleasure to announce to you the senior officer of the mess, Major General Mastin Robeson. General Robeson served for 34 years in the United States Marine Corps. Several of his commands included a counterterrorism task force in East Africa, 2nd and 3rd Marine Divisions, and he finished his career at the Marine Corps Special Operations Command. The general is retired now. He is the president and CEO of Intrepid Corporation. He's on the chairman of the board of directors for Upstate Warrior Solution. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Major General Robeson.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming. And if I could just say for a minute, the most wonderful thing about the Marine Corps birthday is the magnificent ladies who dress up and come out and look so brilliant. So thank you all for coming. And I will tell you that if there's a hero in these wars, I mean, our wounded warriors are great, but you ladies who keep the home fires burning and carry on as if life were normal are truly, truly the heroes of this war. So thank you for what you've done. Now, the mentioning of Upstate Warrior Solution, let me take a minute for a paid political announcement. Actually, it's not paid for, it's just political. Well, it's not even political, it's just an announcement. But Upstate Warrior Solution has been 2 years in coming. It has a small board of directors right now with Mike Reardon and Mike McKissick and myself. It's got a staff of about 6 that include our Mr. Vice and a number of others. The design is purely and simply not to duplicate what others are doing, but to be a clearinghouse to ensure every veteran in the Upstate knows how to find help for what they need. And there are 4 categories that we're focusing on. 1 is housing, 2 is jobs, 3 is education and training, and 4 is health care. So I see that Mr. Reardon is not here, so I'm going to scoop him tonight, and you're going to get, do I have any reporters in here? All right, if you're a reporter, if you report this, I will find you, and I will kill you. Okay. So it will be announced next week that there is a new agreement that will allow the Greenville hospital system to provide the VA-funded health care for our veterans here in the Upstate. That means instead of driving 3 hours to drive back 3 hours, you go to the clinic, you walk down the street 1 mile, and you're served, which is a major coup for the Upstate. Secondly, we're seeking the realtors across the Upstate to come together and say, how do we provide affordable rent and ownership for veterans in the Upstate? We're seeking 300 to 500 CEOs and presidents of companies in the Upstate to say, how do I employ 1 to 4 veterans in the next 12 months, and every 12 months thereafter. And every college, university, and tech school in the Upstate to say, how do I ensure that I make it easier for veterans to spend their VA benefits, their GI Bill here? So the goal would be, we believe there are over 100,000 veterans in the Upstate. There are less than half of those that are signed up for VA, and less than half of those signed up who actually use the VA. We want everybody to use the VA. We want everybody to be educated, everybody to have a job, and be employed, and to have health care that's close to them, and to have housing. But we don't want the government to pay for it. We, in essence, want it to be the community saying, how do we make this happen for you? So it's not more tax dollars. It's community taking care of their soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, no matter what generation they are. So that's the vision of Upstate Warrior Solutions, and you'll hear more. But that's not why we're here tonight. We're here tonight to celebrate the United States Marine Corps birthday. And we're privileged to have what I would consider what really is special about the Marine Corps represented tonight. So Patrick Timothy Brent, in my opinion, represents the greatness of our Corps. Yes, we fight battles. Yes, we win battles. Yes, we've got Marines who have been heroic in every battle and war that our nation has been in. And that is a major contribution, is the reason that we have our Corps. But I would argue to you that that's not the #1 contribution the Marine Corps makes to our nation. The #1 contribution is that we literally make Marines. We take scuzzy civilians like Patrick Brent, like Mastin Robeson, you know, and we take them off the street corner and we actually change them. We make them different. And Nancy might say, you ruined me, but that's just her opinion, you know. But here is a man who came out of Chicago, who walked out of a home where his father walked away at an early age. And he goes in the Marine Corps, and with really no reason from his upbringing, becomes the man he is today, which is actually pretty impressive. He's a businessman and entrepreneur who is either built, revitalized, reshaped, reformed, fixed, and sold over a dozen companies. He's also a war correspondent who is right there in the March After Baghdad, has written over 150 articles for publications. He's also the publisher of 2 books. But more importantly, he's an absolute lifetime friend of the Marine Corps. I mean, you would think, when you talk to P.T. Brent, that this guy had served in the Marine Corps for 45 years, and that's all he had ever done. But the Marine Corps was a small part-time job for this young corporal who served in a reserve battalion in the 24th Marines, but it changed his life forever. And he is who he is today, truly a man who is well known across the nation for his generosity, for his journalism, for his writing skills, his storytelling, his speaking. He lives in Hawaii in a high-rise with a wonderful view of Waikiki. And I don't tell you that, you know, to brag on him. I tell you that because I really believe he would say his success began when he became a U.S. Marine. And the rest of it sort of flowed from there. So it is truly a privilege to introduce a great Marine, a great friend of the Marine Corps, a great American, and a personal friend, Patrick Brent.
Mastin.
Aloha.
That was just the way I wrote it.
It was.
Really great.
I left 2 pieces out. You want me to put them in?
Not now. The man with the mic last. The 5,000 miles from home. Here I am in Greenville for the first time. And I asked myself why. This is one charming, really nice city with great people. And I'm here also because there was 2 new books come out this last few months. Short Rations and one about the 13th Commandant. And I'll be back next year, hopefully, and I'll expect each and every one of you to have read those books. Look at me. Look at my eyes. I want each and every one to read those books. I'll expect a book report. While you're looking around, look at this room. Think about that color garden, these Marines. This is a classy place. This is one of those few places you can arrive and get intoxicated just on atmosphere, right here. A couple years ago, a Marine named Ray Smith, many of you probably heard of, said to me that when our 13th Commandant created that birthday message, he had no idea that someday we would have these lavish affairs. And he had no idea that we'd be accompanied in these affairs with probably the most charming and attractive women on planet Earth.
Amen.
Captain Hugh Poston's here. He's part of FireTeam 1, secret mission. Hugh told me that you better not come to a birthday ball without a good sea story. Did you say that? Right. And then I was asking Colonel Vogt just how. He said to me, what's the definition of a good sea story? Does anyone know that? Anyone know the definition of a good sea story? I'll tell you. A good sea story is one that doesn't lie. So tonight I have 2 short sea stories. Both time machines. One goes way back in the past, and one goes into the future. It goes in the year 2050. A little town called Landrum, South Carolina. We have a really senior old Marine general, and he's on his red tractor made by International Harvester in Chicago. He's plowing along his fence line here. And remember, this guy's 2050, he's a pretty senior guy. He's kind of crumpled up. Not the guy he used to be. So he's crumpled up on his tractor, he's going along, and all of a sudden there's this big bang. And a bird comes out of the sky and falls right between the fence line and the tractor. And all of a sudden, marching along the road is this huge, 6'4", about a 30-year-old dude with one of those, Abercrombie, those dude things with the shotgun shells and all, a big shotgun. And he looks at this grizzled up old general, I think his neighbors call him Mastin. He looks at him and he says, hey old timer, that bird's mine. Come over to get it. The old general says, I'm afraid not, Sonny. Here in South Carolina, it's on my land, it's my bird. Old guy says, you know who I am? I'm Sal Leibowitz. I'm the meanest, toughest lawyer in New York State. If I don't get that bird, I'm going to sue you up one side of your body and down the other. Well, the old general, general looks up and says, you know, son, here in the Carolinas, we have a different way of handling litigation. We don't do all that lawyering stuff. Oh yeah, what's that? So the old general says, we have another way. How does it work? He said, well, with this, in South Carolina, we have the 3-kick rule. Yeah, 3-kick rule. And the guy says, well, tell me about it. The general says, well, here's the work. You come over to the fence here. I kick you 3 times. You kick me 3 times. And it goes back and forth, and the loser loses the bird. So the guy looks at this crumpled up, old, wrinkled, 97-odd-year-old guy, says, no sweat. Comes over to the fence, and then all of a sudden, this general gets off the red tractor with the all faded red with 2 silver stars on it. He gets off, and all of a sudden he looks like a 30-year-old Marine. He's got his utility trousers and boots and a green t-shirt. Looks pretty squared away. All of a sudden he gets kind of invigorated. And this dude comes over, The old general walks up to him, he takes his right boot, and he plants it, boom, right dead center where the Missouri and the Mississippi meet. The guy crumples up. Then the general walks around and smacks him right in the calf. And the guy hits the deck. The general takes his time, walks around, slam right in the ribs. This lawyer guy's like, he's really suffering. He didn't have to do it. He's really suffering. So he goes, finally, after a couple of minutes, he drags himself over the fence and pulls himself up. And he gets, he's up to his wind comes back. He looks at the general and he says, okay, my turn. The general turns back towards his red tractor and says, nah, that's okay, you keep the bird. This brings us to represents the expression, once a Marine. A couple of years ago, I was with another Marine named Ron Christmas. He said to me that when a young man or woman goes into Quantico or Paris Island, the only boot camp, there's some mystical force that tears open their chest cavity, and a hot iron goes in there, and it brands an eagle, globe, and anchor on their heart forever. Now, my last sea story, time machine goes back to the year 1901, 1900. An Irish immigrant family from County Donegal, Ireland, comes to New York City, works in the grocery business, does do well, goes out to Montana. They have a young man. It's a struggling family, and they find a young man just to keep things going. He's age 14. World War I is coming on, and he joins the U.S. Navy. The same young man serves in the Navy, comes out, immediately joins the U.S. Army, American Army, serves it, hitched in the Army, gets out, comes back to Montana, and he sees the light, the great light. On 1920, 10 November, he joins the U.S. Marine Corps, serves in the Philippines, insurrection, does a fine job, comes back to Montana. He's had virtually no schooling. He marries an Irish gal named Maureen, who helps him out. They study really hard. He becomes a miner. Tough life. Finally gets enough education that he passes the test for the University of Montana. Gets his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, teaches for 10 years. Then he gets elected to the House of Congress. 7 terms. In fact, the Douglas Mansfield Act, it gave 3 air wings and 3 divisions, and gave the Marine Corps parity with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was created by him. Goes to the Senate, serves 24 years in the Senate, creates and gets the Equal Rights Amendment passed. Well, this man, after all these years, retires, but America's not finished with him. He's respected by both sides. He's made ambassador to Japan for 12 years. Anybody here from Japan? 12 years he was ambassador to Japan. And he's one of the most respected ambassadors in America's history. They built a monument for him there. Finally comes home at the age of 85, but America's not finished. Both sides wanted him as a White House advisor, a roving diplomat. Extraordinary man. Finally, in 2001, at the age of 98, he dies. Obituary, 1901, 1903, 2001, Michael Joseph Mansfield. Now this extraordinary man, remember all 3 branches, Congress, Senate, ambassador, really credentialed. He could have been buried anywhere he wanted. Monument, Montana, up there in Arlington with the eternal flame, any place he wanted. But where was he buried? He was buried in Section 2, marker 49, an obscure area with the same marker as everybody else there at Arlington National Cemetery. What did it say in that marker? It said, simple marker, it said, Michael Joseph Mansfield, Private, U.S. Marines. As the general mentioned, I've been around some of today's real Marines, and I have to tell you, I'm impressed with today's Marines. I think they're the best we ever had, far better than when I was in. I often wonder if I wore the same fabric. And when I go places like I attend board meetings or I go to several schools where I lecture, I've had several young people ask me where one would learn leadership. And they don't really like the answer, so I give it to them as fast as I can. I didn't learn leadership in any college 101 course. I learned leadership 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at a little island off the coast of South Carolina. I learned it from every NCO and officer I met. Why? Because they were immersed in a culture of excellence, founded on virtue and discipline. Now I'd like to ask everybody here to join me in hoisting their glass for 238 years of romping, stomping United States Marines. Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
I told you, Mastin. Last on the mic, I got it.
Very good.
Inspirational, Patrick. Thank you. Patrick, Brent, would you please rise and approach the podium? EOD checked this before I boxed it up. We are presenting Patrick Timothy Brent with a pewter mug, a Marine Corps pewter mug, cast at Ton Tavern in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 2013. We're presenting it from the Marine Corps Mess of Greenville to Patrick Timothy Brent to be our honored speaker for the Marine Corps Birthday 2013. Thank you, sir. In front of you, hopefully, there's still a small glass that contains a weird brown liquid that we refer to as port. It's a very tiny thing. I'm going to have to go over and pick mine up because this is the time that we render toast to various entities, both within the mess and throughout the world. One does not need to rise to receive a toast. One does need to rise to present a toast. I'm going to present through Mr. Vice toast. Then I will invite any member of the mess that chooses to do so to present a toast. So if everyone has their glass of port. Mr. Vice, a toast to the President of the United States.
To the President of the United States.
President of the United States.
Mr. Vice, a toast to Corps and country.
toast to country and corps.
Country and corps.
Hoorah.
Would all Marines and the spouses of Marines and those that happen to be strap hangers of Marines please rise. Mr. Vice, toast to the Marine Corps.
Long live the United States and success to the Marines.
Please be seated. Would all United States Army personnel, their spouses, and those who accompany them, please rise. Mr. Vice, a toast to the United States Army.
Hoorah to the United States Army. The Marines salute you.
Please be seated. Would all United States Coast Guard personnel, their spouse, and those accompanying them, please rise. Do we have a Coast Guard person in the room? Okay. Do we have a merchant mariner in the room? No merchant mariner? Anyone with a boat, please rise. Mr. Vice, toast to the United States Coast Guard.
To the United States Coast Guard, the Marines salute you.
Those of you with boats, please be seated. Would all United States Air Force personnel, their spouses, and those friends that accompanied them, please rise. Mr. Vice, a toast to the United States Air Force.
To the United States Air Force, the Marines salute you.
Please be seated. Members of the mess, are there any other toast? Members of the mess, are there any other toast? Sir, please rise.
On behalf of the National Museum of the Marine Corps, where I volunteer, I'd like to toast the spouses, the families, and the civilian supporters of the Marine Corps.
To the spouses, the families, Mr. Vice.
To the spouses and families. Hoorah.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a good time this evening. We had a good meal. We have a festive occasion still in front of us with the cutting of the cake, several other of our ceremonial functions. However, at this particular point in time, we tend to deviate and fall on a much somber occasion. Mr. Vice, would you accompany me, sir, to prepare for the fallen comrade? Ladies and gentlemen of the mess, in front of you is a lone table covered with a black cloth. Mr. Vice and I have placed a uniform blouse, a cover, and gloves on this table. The flags on this table represent all the services of the United States. We are going to recognize those people that through the years gave their life or had their life violently taken from them in the service of this country. It's a solemn ceremony. I will light a candle. This candle represents the fact that there is an actual person seated in this chair. They live. They live with us. They live with us for the moment. And they represent every single person that has died wearing the uniform of this nation regardless of their service. This, ladies and gentlemen, is our fallen comrade. We will not forget you, sir. We reach out to you. You are with us tonight. We feel you. We thank you for your sacrifice and your devotion to duty and honor of your service, your country, your family, and those here so assembled. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Mr. Vice, a toast to our fallen comrades.
To fallen comrades.
Fallen comrades.
You may be seated. Back in 1775, in Boston, Philadelphia, New York, Charleston, a resolution of Congress had been passed raising 2 battalions of Marines to participate in the Revolutionary War. There was one particular place in Philadelphia, referred to as Tun Tavern. They got the jump on everybody. One Robert Mullen was the proprietor of that tavern, and he was appointed by Captain Samuel Nichols a captain recruiter for the Marines. Now, Robert Mullen was no slouch. He ran a tavern. He knew how to handle people. And they wanted to recruit Marines. So Mullen came up with an idea, rather novel. He decided that anyone who had come in off the street and enlisted in the Marine Corps would receive 3 grogs, cups, tankards, whatever, of rum. In other words, he got them blitzed. When the first Marines came in and signed on the dotted line and were sworn in as United States Marines, Robert Mullen, later in the day, ran out of rum. He couldn't get anybody to enlist, but he went out and strong-armed a few and got them inside, got them to sign on the dotted line. The next day, they were all seated together to take the oath of office in the tavern. And the old Marines who were there on day 1 that got the rum, they told the new Marines that came in on day 2, now in the old Corps, you got rum when you enlisted. And that's how the old Corps was invented in 1775. Now we're going to do 2 things this evening. We're going to drink some rum, and we're going to eat some cake. And the rum, I'm going to put together the rum the way Robert Mullen put it together. Bear with me. I've got my cauldron over here, and I've got a little bit of water and a little bit of ice in it. They did have a little bit of ice in November, but Mullen had some rum. This is British Navy rum. British Navy rum. Verified. And he used this rum as the basis for his grog, and I'm going to do that right now. He put a little bit of rum. Then he was going to add to that a few other things, but he got to thinking about it, and all those Marines he needed to find, so he put a little more rum. Then he thought, okay, that's enough. I got enough rum for the Marines now. But he needed to raise a lot of Marines, so he put a little more rum in there. And then, to kill the taste, good Vermont, Pennsylvania, New York, maple syrup. He added, well, why not, a little more. He added that to the grog. And then, since they were going to be aboard ship, the Marines were going to be aboard ship, they wanted to prevent the scurvy that was certain to come. And I've got up here the same lines that Robert Mullen used. But this is 2013. I'll use the public. So we prevent scurvy. We stir it up. All right, put a little grenadine in here. This is a 2013 thing. A little bit of grenadine. What's that? Now, if you can't enlist a Marine with that, you're stupid. Way to go. So Robert Mullen, using this grog, giving 3 tankards of grog to the new guys who enlisted, got those people into the Marine Corps. By the way, that was in November 1775. In January 1776. Those same Marines conducted the first amphibious operation in the Bahamas, and they captured British shot and shell powder for Washington's army. Little known fact, they also raided the bars of Nassau. And they returned with shot and shell for Washington's army, but they did not give Washington's army the rum. They kept the rum. That's how the United States Marines were born. We were born in a waterfront tavern in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We will now serve the rum punch. It is in front of you. It is in a mug provided by Patrick Brent. And before you drink your rum, oh, look at it, sniff of it, maybe take a little sip. But we are now going to bring the key thing into being. We are going to play the music of the El Capitan March while we each take just a couple. Now save it, don't drink all of your rum. We're going to save a little bit of that. During the El Capitan March, during the playing of the El Capitan March, I would like Thomas Louise, back here, World War II Marine, Thomas. Come on, Thomas. We'll move forward. Come on up here, Thomas. Thomas Louise. Chester Reese. Where's Chester? There's Chester. Leroy Richardson. Leroy, you guys come on up. We're going to bring the cake out at this particular point, the El Capitan March. On my left is a World War II Navy corpsman with the Fleet Marine Force. Doc Easley, raise your hand, Doc. Served on Iwo Jima in 1945. Thomas Louise served on Bougainville. Leroy Richardson, Chester Reese, all World War II Marines and Bowmen. Patrick Wood, will you come forward, please, General? Sir, forward. Mr. Vice.
Present the cake.
Of honor and General Robeson and our Mr. Vice will assist in cutting of the cake and presenting of the cake to the World War II Marines and of course two swords. The first sword that we're using is a non-commissioned officer's sword. The second sword that we'll be using is a Marine officer's sword, the Marmaluke sword. We ceremoniously cut the cake. That ceremony comes from our Commandant Lemuel Shepard back in the 1950s, decreed that this would be part of the Marine Corps birthday function, cutting and serving of the cake. It's symbolic because the first persons to receive the cake are the oldest Marines. They receive the cake, generally take a bite of it, and then they pass that cake, one person will do it, pass the cake to Corporal Coke, who represents the young Marines today, the Marines of today. So the old Corps passes their honor, their tradition, and their fighting spirit to today's Marine Corps in symbolism of the passing of a simple slice of cake. John Lejeune, as the 13th Commandant, started this birthday ceremony in 1923. Today, we add the fallen comrade symbolism and the cake cutting symbolism. Now you're going to be served a piece of this cake. We ask that you consume the cake and wash it down with a little bit of your grog that literally came from 1775. And if you want some real grog, well, what you've got is real. But let me tell you something. What I put together up there is potent. And anyone who chooses to do so may take one of their mugs, approach that thing, put up the fire shield, dip into the cauldron, and take a little bit of the real stuff. Cake is being cut. General is going down to give Doc Easley his piece of cake.
Mr. Vice beat you to it, General.
Mr. Vice was too quick.
Did you get out, Fox, General? Kevin Outfox. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our cake cutting ceremony. Mr. Rex. You may be seated. No, you're not singing anymore. What I have, ladies and gentlemen, up here, each Marine Corps birthday of the mess, we appoint a distinguished member of the mess. To my left, we have Major Hall, we have Captain O'Connor. They are distinguished members of the mess because of the service that they have rendered to this mess. Before we adjourn for the evening, I turn it over to Mr. Vice, who will retire the colors and all that good stuff. I want to take this opportunity to take this certificate, and I'll put it in here backwards. I'm sorry about that.
Press that button.
The backside can be read also. I'm going to pass this over to Major Hall, and Major Hall and Captain O'Connor will present the certificate of distinguished member of the mess to Captain Vogt. They're very cunning about this. No words are spoken. We just pass it over to him. And we're all applaud. Good job, sir. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vice, yours, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Retire. Colors.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Mr. Vice, happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday.
Where's Frank?
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, this concludes our mess for this evening. I'm going to announce an hour of dancing. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you for attending our 238th Marine Corps birthday ball. Happy birthday, Marines. Hoorah!
I know you got something because when it came back, the film was running for a while. I looked at the numbers.
Many of you received the script of the Song of the Marines, and several of you have volunteered to be in the choir. So those who have volunteered, would you please stand up? And we will lead you in this song.
In 1937, Harry or Nell Dubin, who wrote all the Broadway songs, 42nd Street, created a movie and a play called The Singing Marine. And they composed this song. It's not like the Marine's hymn, which is sacred. It's a drinking song. It's dedicated to the 4th Marine Regiment in Shanghai.
Ready?